As I said that I will be bringing to you a love story from Japanese mythology. So here I am. So in Japanese mythology, just like the Hindu mythology, initially the universe was nothing but a ball of nothingness. And from that nothingness, reality was created. Now what is reality? Reality was created to bring order in the universe. Now this reality was called Takamaga Hera, which needed to be looked after by a trinity, again like the Hindu mythology. And this trinity was called the three kamis. In Japanese mythology, gods are referred to as kamis. So these three kamis were restoring order in the universe, was creating, was making a method out of the madness of that ball of nothingness. So they were creating heaven, they were creating energy, they were creating different planets, galaxy, Milky Way, stars, sun, moon. They were creating all of it. While they were creating all of this, one particular planet caught their fancy. And this planet had only oceans and sea and water in it. And they said that we need someone to look after this planet. They thought for a while, who will look after this planet which suddenly has caught their fancy. They decided that they will manifest two divine kamis. They will manifest two divine gods to look after the earth specifically. They manifested Izanagi and Izanami. Izanagi the male, Izanami the female, who was supposed to take care of the earth. When Izanagi and Izanami looks down upon earth, they see it's nothing but a ball of ocean and seas, which has only water life. They thought for a while, and they decided that they needed to bring balance in this planet called Earth. So Izanagi and Izanami gave birth to 8 islands. Onogoro was the first island that was born in Japan. And then you must have seen it in your maps, and you must have heard Shikoku was born, Honshu was born, Ajwai was born. These were all islands according to Japanese mythology, which was created from, which was born out of Izanami. Now islands have been born, but there needed to be, land was there, water was there, but there needed to be other things too. So Izanagi and Izanami needed to give birth to other gods. The first birth that happened was the birth of Hiroku. Hiroku was a leech child, which meant that Hiroku did not have bones, Hiroku did not have limbs. Izanagi and Izanami decided to float Hiroku on the river in a boat. Sounds familiar? Karna's birth? Well. And then Izanagi and Izanami gives birth to the god of thunder, god of rains, god of wind. And they still felt that something, we need to give birth to, something much more powerful too. And finally, they gave birth to Kagutsachi, the god of fire, Kami, the fire god. Now when Kagutsachi is born, the power of fire is so much that the Divine Mother Izanami gets severely burned. She gets severely burned from the birth of her son. And the burn is so much that she retreats in a corner to die peacefully. Now this is the first time I heard that in a mythology a god is dying. A god dies. Yes, Izanami retreats in a corner. Izanagi does not know how to live life without Izanami, tries to resuscitate her, tries to give her food, but nothing. Izanami was slowly collapsing, and slowly Izanami dies. Izanagi is absolutely left lonely and very, very angry. The first thing he does is takes his sword and kills Kagutsachi, kills the fire god. But the fire god was so powerful that the blood of the fire god and the flesh of the fire god gave birth to many more kamis. But Izanagi was just missing the love of his life. But Izanami had already traveled to the land of the dead. The land of the dead was called Yomi. Again, in the Hindu mythology, the god of the dead is called Yam. And here, the land of the dead is called Yomi. That is where Izanami had traveled to. Izanagi was missing Izanami so much that for the first time on earth, new emotions were born. Grief, sorrow, sadness, despondence, all was born because Izanagi was missing the love of his life. Izanagi decided that he can't wait anymore. He has to go and meet Izanami. So he decides to travel to Yomi. And traveling to Yomi is really, really tough. So he takes his mighty sword and he starts traveling to Yomi. On the way he meets demons, he meets beasts, and he fights them. But he is absolutely focused that he needs to go to the land of the dead and meet Izanami. Finally, that strong, arduous journey paid off. He finally reached Yomi. And when he reached Yomi, he starts calling out Izanami's name. Izanami's name was echoing all across the land of dead. Hearing this, one woman slowly gets out of her slumber. She's already traveled to the land of the dead. But someone calling out her name from the land of living shook her. Yes, that was Izanami, who was hearing her husband calling out her name. And she finally recognizes her name and goes to meet Izanagi. So on the gateway of the land of dead, Izanami meets Izanagi, who is yet, even till then, was standing outside the gate. The living was meeting the dead. And all that they could feel was pure joy of reunion. And Izanagi says, I can't live without you. I need to be with you. I can't create more kamis. I can't do anything. But Izanami says that, look, I have eaten food here. That means I belong to the dead. But Izanagi says, do something. You need to be with me. Izanami thinks for a while and says, okay, let me go to the land of Yomi. Let me go to the king of Yomi. And let me negotiate. Let me request the king of Yomi that I need to be with Izanagi. Izanagi says, please do that. Izanami says, I'll do that. But you will not cross this border that I'm telling you. You will not go to the mansion that I'm walking into. Because when I will be walking into that mansion, I will be taking the body of the dead. And that you, as a living person, you will not be able to take it. So do not follow me to that mansion. Wait for me. Izanagi says, sure, I've been waiting for you for so long and I will not wait for you now, of course. So Izanami says bye to Izanagi and walks into the mansion of the dead to speak to the king of dead that she wants to go back to the land of living. Izanagi patiently waits for his love. One day, one night, he has waited. The next day, he can't. He was too impatient. So what does he do? He takes a comb out of his hair, breaks a tooth from the comb, and lights fire. Again fire. He lights fire, breaks the barrier between the mansion of the dead and where he was standing, and walks into the same place where Izanami has entered. When he walks into that mansion, he sees that there is no light. There's absolute silence, as if sound, the concept of sound has not entered there. And he starts walking. For the first time, again, a new emotion was bubbling inside him. And it was not a very comfortable emotion. And as he walks into it, he sees that a woman was sitting slumped in front of a throne. And from that woman's body, fresh maggots were creeping out. There were things which were hanging out of her body. And all that Izanagi could feel when he saw that woman was disgust. So he screams out in terror. Terror was an emotion which was just born. And the moment he screams out in terror, the woman who was slumped in a corner, she turns back. And that's Izanami. Izanami had taken the body of the dead to speak to the king of dead. But by that time, Izanagi was so taken with fear that he started running. He started running for his dear life. Izanami was angry. She had happily adjusted in the land of dead. Izanagi had come and said, please, 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 come back. And when she goes to negotiate, Izanagi feels terrorized, and so he decides to leave her. Izanami decides that, she's not going to take this lying down. She starts chasing Izanagi. These two, who were lovers, one was running away from another, and the other one was trying to take revenge. So Izanami started chasing, sending demons and beasts to follow Izanagi. But Izanagi was so taken with terror, was so taken with fear that he decided that he's going to do everything to run away from her. So he takes a huge boulder and rolls it on the land of Yomi so that the gate is locked by that boulder. And yes, the boulder is rolled and the gate is locked. But Izanami stands on that boulder and says, fine, go away from me. But I curse you that every day I will take away 1,000 lives from your land. Izanagi looks back at Izanami, smiles and says, every time, every day, you will take away 1,000 lives. Every day, I will give birth to 1,500 lives. And that's how Izanagi says bye to Izanami. And he finally accepts death. In terms of Izanami, she was called the Divine Mother. After her death, she got to be known as the Hag of Death. And that was the love story of Izanagi and Izanami. Those who were together in creation parted when it came to destruction.